Yeah, it's definitely. I think they've just got so many names, haven't they? And when you have the very tried and tested rulers of like Wout van Aert, Van Hooydonk could probably go, Laporte,
Would you send Van
who's
Hooydonk?
yeah,
100%.
I think he's really quite underrated as a ruler. I think, he doesn't get results, but he's a bit like it's like Luke Rowe. Luke Rowe goes to races because he's just reliable. Like he gets the job done. He guides people around, and I think that's what Van Hooydonk does really well. You need those people in there. I do still think that at the moment, I'd said this last week, but I still think that Jumbo's team is stronger, mano a mano, which is how they beat Jonas last year. I mean,
Beat
how they beat
Jonas.
Pogačar last year. Yeah, sorry, brain fart. That's how they beat Pogačar last year because they just had a stronger team. Pretty much. I mean, they literally did it, executed it on on that one stage, pretty much when they beat Pogačar. But yeah, I think Jonas still has the capabilities. Yeah, I do like all of Ewan's points about kind of Jumbo's strategy, what they need to consider going into trying to balance Primož's attack at the Giro, but also Jonas's attack at the Tour. It's going to be quite difficult, despite all the signings which they have made, which has put them into really the super team status which they're currently in.
I could go in the defense for Jonas Vingegaard. That one of the things that they've been talking up in the Danish press is that Tadej Pogačar is only in this amazing form compared to Jonas Vingegaard is because the classics are coming up and Jonas Vingegaard doesn't care about the classics. And obviously Tadej Pogačar, Paris-Nice is seen as this tune-up race for the classics riders. That's why we were saying, who was it that went up the road? Oh, Oliver Nassen. They're just using this as a tune-up. But with that, Tadej Pogačar probably near his 100%. Do you think he's realistically now a favorite for Milan-San Remo? And how does he win it if he is?
I think yes, he is a favourite for Sanremo. I think the way that he wins it is they do something similar to last year in that they pace the Cipressa really hard. I think they need to do that again and arguably try and because the group going into the Poggio last year was probably one of the smallest we've seen in a long time, just because of the way that UAE paced the Cipressa. But I do remember them getting to the top of that climb, and it was Formlow had to come back up to the front, and he looked absolutely gassed. I think that they need to try and whittle Domestiques down and try and get that group as small as possible going into the Poggio. As Pogačar has said so far this week, he doesn't like it when lots of people are around. He likes it being more mano a mano, keeping things a bit simpler. So the fewer people, the better. So I think they're going to try and make it a really attritional race as much as San Remo can be done to be an attritional race. And I think that Pogačar, his racing instinct, I think that he won't do a Mohoric and descend like away crazy, but he could certainly grab the hull by the horns in the last 2Ks and just solo away to victory. I certainly think that is a possibility.
I mean, last year we had this discussion about is Pogacar the favorite for Sanremo after watching him absolutely destroy Strada Bianca, then ride dominantly at Tirreno. Not much has changed in 12 months. He's still got that same instinct. He looks to be in very similar form. He tried last year to get away from the other guys, and it didn't work. I don't quite think the climb suits Pogačar enough for him to get away. There are other guys with an explosive kick that could respond. I think what works in his favor is that Van der Poel and Van Aert both don't look that great in terms of their form. Van Aert slid on his rear end across Italy last week after clashing with Tom Pidcock. And then Van der Poel has been looking hot and cold, which does make it different to last year. And Alaphilippe's kind of out of the mix. So maybe, yes, there are probably less contenders. The team, there's a slight change in personnel. We have Tim Wellens now. He might add a different touch to the squad and how they're going to ride him. Maybe if Gorshardner goes, that'll be different as well. But he's more of a mountain guy than a hill kind of specialist. The Rothschild, Davide Formolo, he kind of turns himself inside out all the time for Pogačar in these hilly races. Usually goes to some success, but it didn't work last year. I'm not convinced it'll work this year. I'm not favorable to the idea of it being a solo winner over the top, especially it being an A-list favorite. We spoke about it last week about Tom Pidcock, who I don't believe is going to be in contention this year now that he's looks to have hurt his hand quite a bit. I'm skeptical that Pogačar will win. I still think we're going to have a reduced bunch sprint.
Yeah. I think you make a good point. I was literally going to say about Pidcock and how he DNF'd today, so that almost reduces the contenders list even further. I think that Van Aert showed some pretty good flashes at Tirreno, so I reckon he will provide some good competition. But like you say, Van der Poel, yeah, I just think Pogačar seems to have the least question marks about him at the moment. I think there's certainly the guys like Pedersen, I think, is looking really good. Deli was a bit MIA as well in Paris-Nice this week. Not saying that he's lost form. I think he was just poorly positioned. But I do think that Pogačar, if a group goes over the top, kind of similar to 2019, where there was like 8 to 10 riders, I think that he could certainly get away in the flatter last couple of Ks off of the descent of the Poggio and solo away to victory. I think that he won't win in a sprint, but I think a move kind of similar to Mohoric, but later at the bottom of the climb maybe could work.
I think Pogačar could win in a sprint.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
If there's a
like Liège, Bastogne-Liège kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, well, even like 10 riders. If it's between Mohoric, Wellens, Madoise, Genietz,
even Alaphilippe apparently.
Alaphilippe,
yeah.
Come on, don't kid yourself. Valter, he's looked pretty good over the past couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, but he wouldn't beat him. He wouldn't.
The thing is, I'm saying that like Pogačar would beat like a good 15 group of solid riders, but all it takes is for there to be like a sort of Iban Garcia Cortina or a Pedersen or a Biniam Girmay to be in the mix, and then that's Pogačar's sprint kind of scuppered. But he could still finish on the podium. Remember back in the Olympic Games in Tokyo, he very almost beat Wout van Aert in a sprint, came down to a photo finish for the bronze medal. He's a good sprinter at the end of a hard day. That's all I'm saying.
Where do you think Pogačar is going to finish this year?
First.
There we go. Thanks.
I had so much confidence in him winning last year, so I'm hesitant to say that he'll win it this year, because then I mean it's just going to feel like it's going to be every year I'm going to have the same discussion about can Pogačar's going to win.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say I'm going to stick to my guns from the preseason and say it'll be a small bunch sprint, but I think he'll finish in top 10.
Yeah, it's the whole favorite and getting swamped on the finish, or
I
just
think
being looked at like if he just touches his gears on the Poggio, everyone's going to be on him, hair on soap.
I think what could make people glitch is if like Wellens went up the road and people are like, oh, but isn't he like Pogačar's teammate? Like, what is he doing going up? Then Wellens goes on his own all the way to the end. He's a good descender. And then Wellens pulls a Mohoric.
And then just wins.
Yeah.
Signing of the season.
Like, something like that, where like, well, but he's evidently in good form. He's clicking with the new team. Rode a really good classics opening weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if he went off. Maybe even like a Rui Costa. Nah, if Pogačar come on, Rui Costa's not winning this. Nobody's working with Rui Costa. He's got a reputation.
Not even him. He's not working with himself.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Wouldn't trust his own shadow.
Poor Tadej Pogačar. He was listening in, and we just said no.
I did. I said he was.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Well, but his most loyal. The president of the Liverpool Tadej Pogačar fan club, he said no.
Oh dear.
I might have to resign after that.
Well, it's because Pidcock's just doing shit now, so I have no allegiance to anybody now. So I'm a rogue agent.